Good morning, kindergarten. Mrs. Alexander here. And I'm going to be facilitating our discussion today in making meaning and being a reader shared reading. You will have two virtual teachers discussing the lessons today. The first one for making meaning will be Mrs. Stocks. The second one will be Mrs. Santa doing your shared reading. Both virtual instructors will be telling you to pause the video. At this time, you will be discussing the lesson with a toy or with somebody maybe close by to you. So you can pause that on your own when they ask you to.
Welcome. I am your virtual teacher, Mrs. Stocks, for your Making Meaning lessons. Before we get started, make sure you are prepared to listen and have your computer in front of you. In this lesson, the students will retell a story with support, answer questions about key details in the story, make text-to-self connections to enjoy and understand the story, read independently for up to 5 minutes, listen to one another, take responsibility for themselves. Today I will show you pictures and tell the story of Whistle for Willie in my own words to help you remember the story. I will stop a few times and ask for your help to retell the story. You will be responsible for talking about the story and for listening to one another, so it's important for you to listen very carefully. Your remote teacher will be checking in with you about your retelling. Whistle for Willie by Ezra Jack Keats. Whistle for Willie. On this page, the boy in the story, Peter, really wanted to be able to whistle. He saw another boy and his dog. The boy whistled and the dog came running to him. Peter tried to whistle, but he still couldn't do it, so he spins himself around really fast. When he stopped, he was really dizzy. Really, really dizzy. Peter saw his dog, Willie, coming, quick as a wink. He hid in an empty carton lying on the sidewalk. Wouldn't it be funny if I whistled? Peter thought. Willie would stop and look all around to see who it was. Then what happens? Your remote teacher will pause the slide to give you time to retell this part to your remote classmates, someone at home, or your favorite toy.
At this time, students, you can pause the video and tell somebody what you've learned so far in the story.
That's right. Peter still couldn't whistle, and his dog Willie just kept walking. Peter got out of the carton and headed home. He took some chalk and drew a long line on the ground. When he got to his front door, he tried to whistle again. He blew really hard, and his cheeks were really tired. What do you remember about this part of the story? Your remote teacher will pause the slide to give you some time to think and discuss with your partner.
At this time, you can pause the video again and discuss with a partner or stuffed animal.
Yes, Peter still couldn't whistle. Once Peter was inside his house, he put on his father's hat to make him feel like he was a grown-up. He tried to whistle again, but still couldn't do it. What do you remember about this part of the story? Your remote teacher will pause the slide to give you time to retell this part of the story to your partner.
You may now pause the video and retell this part of the story to a toy or to a partner.
Here, Peter pretends to be his father when talking to his mother. He asks where Peter is, and she tells him that he isn't home, so Peter says he will go out looking for him. Peter is walking on the crack of the sidewalk and trying to run away from his shadow here. He jumped off his shadow, but when he landed, they were together again. He came to the corner where the carton was, and who should he see but Willie? What happens next? Your remote teacher will pause the slide to give you time to retell this part of the story to your partner.
You may now pause and retell this part of the story to a toy, to a partner, or to a grown-up.
When Peter is hiding under the carton, he is finally able to whistle. Willie stops and looks around. "It's me," Peter shouted and stood up. Willie raced straight to him. Peter goes home with Willie to show his parents that he could whistle. Peter's mother asked him and Willie to go on an errand to the grocery store. He whistled all the way there, and he whistled all the way home. Now let's think about the story. Why do you think Peter pretended to be his father? Your remote teacher will pause the slide to give you time to think and respond. How do Peter and his parents feel at the end of the story? Why do you think they feel that way? Turn to your partner. Your remote teacher will pause the slide to give you time to think and respond.
You can now pause the video and respond to your partner, to a stuffed animal, to a toy, or to a grown-up.
Remember, in the beginning of the story, it was hard for Peter to whistle. What is something that is hard for you to do? Turn to your partner. Your remote teacher will pause the slide to give you time to think and discuss.
You may now pause the lesson to discuss what is something that is hard for you to do.
For me, it's hard to whistle too. How do you feel when it is hard to do something? Your remote teacher will pause the slide to give you time to think and discuss. Sometimes I feel frustrated because I can't whistle. Now it's time to reflect on today's lesson. Remember, we have been practicing working and acting responsibly when hearing and talking about books. You also learned turn to your partner. One of the ideas on the remote reading together chart is to sit in a quiet place while listening to the story. Why is that a good idea? Your remote teacher will pause the slide to give you time to think and respond. In what other ways have you listened responsibly during a read aloud? Your remote teacher will pause the slide to give you time to think and respond. In what ways have you talked responsibly? Your remote teacher will pause the slide to give you time to think and respond. Last week you started.
Okay, students, now we're going to get into our shared reading with Mrs. Santa. In this lesson, we are learning to echo read. Remember, when we echo read, somebody would say something first, and then you would say it right after. I will be facilitating the discussion with Mrs. Santos. Excuse me.
Hello, I am your virtual teacher, Mrs. Santa. Today we will be participating in shared reading. Before we begin, please remember our routines and procedures. Make sure that you are in a quiet space. Face the camera so that we can see you. And most importantly, sit up tall so that you're ready to learn. Today you will learn a new poem. Listen carefully and participate responsibly, and you will learn the poem and hand motions. Your remote teacher will watch to see the ways you participate responsibly during the lesson and talk about them at the end of the lesson. The poem you will learn today is called Five Little Monsters. It is a poem about five little monsters that make a creamy sweet dessert called pudding. Five little monsters. Five little monsters by the light of the moon, stirring pudding with a wooden pudding spoon. The first one says, "It mustn't be runny." The second one says, "That would make it taste funny." The third one says, "It mustn't be lumpy." The fourth one says, "That would make me grumpy." The fifth one smiles, hums a little tune, and licks the pudding from the wooden pudding spoon. I will read the poem 2 lines at a time with the hand motions. You will echo back the same words and do the same hand motions after me. Five little monsters. Five little monsters by the light of the moon, stirring pudding with a wooden pudding spoon. The first one says, "It mustn't be runny." The second one says, "That would make it taste funny." The third one says, "It mustn't be lumpy." The fourth one says, "That would make me grumpy." The fifth one smiles, hums a little tune, and licks all the drippings from the wooden pudding spoon. These are the words of the poem you just learned. 5 Little Monsters by Eve Merriam. She's the author who wrote the poem. I will read the poem aloud and stop to explain some of the words. 5 little monsters by the light of the moon, stirring pudding. Pudding is a soft, creamy food. Stirring pudding with a wooden pudding spoon. The first one says, "It mustn't be runny." Runny means watery. It mustn't be runny. The second one says, "That would make it taste funny." The third one says, "It mustn't be lumpy." Lumpy means not smooth, having clumps. It mustn't be lumpy. The fourth one says, "That would make me grumpy." The fifth one smiles, hums a little tune. Hums a little tune means to sing with your lips closed. Hums a little tune and licks all the drippings. Drippings means drops of pudding, and licks all the drippings from the wooden pudding spoon. What happens in this poem? Turn to your partner or think to yourself. Your remote teacher may pause the video so some of you can share your thinking. Now you will echo read the poem. Remember, it is important that you listen carefully to your friends so you all can stay together and sound like one voice. 5 Little Monsters by Eve Merriam. Okay, I'm first and you'll be next. 5 little monsters by the light of the moon. Your turn.
5 little monsters by the light of the moon.
Stirring pudding with a wooden pudding spoon.
Stirring pudding with a wooden pudding spoon.
The first one says, "It mustn't be runny."
The first one says, "It mustn't be runny."
The second one says, "That would make it taste funny."
The second one says, "That would make it taste funny."
The third one says, "It mustn't be lumpy."
The third one says, "It mustn't be lumpy."
The fourth one says, "That would make me grumpy."
The fourth one says, "That would make me grumpy."
The fifth one smiles, hums a little tune.
The fifth one smiles, hums a little tune,
And licks all the drippings from the wooden pudding spoon.
and licks all the drippings from the wooden pudding spoon.
Time to reflect. Your remote teacher will pause the video and talk about the ways you and your friends participated responsibly today.
Here you can pause and tell a friend or a toy about how you participated responsibly. What did you do?
Time to say goodbye. See you next time.
Great job, students. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.